We will get started. It is 5:30 and we will call this meeting to order. Welcome, bienvenidos to our regular board meeting at Vancouver Public Schools, Tuesday, December 12th. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few thoughts and reminders. We want our boardroom to be a welcoming, safe space for all and any of our community members and guests. As this is a business meeting, we do expect those in attendance to conduct themselves in a respectful way. We would ask that you do not interrupt the meeting, and if there's any immediate need that you have, such as an audio concern or question, please move to the back and let one of our staff members know. As a reminder, there is a designated space for any video recording and or media. We will now get started with our business meeting and the items on our agenda. We will start with our roll call. Director Smith. Here. Director Barros. Here. Director Sproul. Here. And Director Decker. Here. And I am also here. We are all in attendance and we have quorum. Today we get to swear in our re-elected officials. So congratulations, Dr. Snow.
I'd like to invite Greg Kimsey forward, and he will walk us through the process here of the oath of office. Thank you, Greg, for being here. Greg, do you want to use them? So we're zooming it too, so it helps the people.
Yeah.
Here.
Is that better? Can you hear me now? Okay, so if you want to raise your, am I going to do this? Let me, here we go. So you raise your right hand, and then after we say aye, you'll state your name. And then after we get to the duties of the office of, you will state your position number. Hope you remember your position numbers. So, I do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States and of the state of Washington, that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington, and will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability, truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially perform the duties of the office of school director, position, Vancouver School District number 37 in and for Clark County, Washington. Congratulations and thank you for your service. Get everyone to sign.
There are seats in the front if anyone would like to sit in the front. I know we don't like it, but there are seats in the front.
Thank you. At this time, we have a tradition we started this year where we feature a school each month for our national anthem. And then at the conclusion of the meeting, we also feature that school with some wrap-up music. So sometimes people don't stay for the whole meeting, but you're able to watch that on the recording as well. So if you're able to rise for our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Continue. Tanner's a sophomore at VSAA, so we really appreciate Tanner's performance. And we'll have a wrap-up presentation from the choral ensemble at the end of the meeting. At this point of the agenda is my superintendent report, and so I want to walk the board through some information and share with the community as well. We'll be talking just a little bit about the study session that we had at the end of November, some schools of choice change, and accessing curriculum and learning standards, and then a budget update, which we've had most meetings in the near past anyway. So in our study session on November 28th, we've been doing strategic planning updates. The board adopted a new strategic plan in October, and in anticipation of that adoption, we started the progress monitoring update starting in September. And just a couple of slides from that study session. Number one is we have a very excited group of educators that are piloting outdoor school this year. And so they presented to the board. Franklin, Harney, and Hazeldale fifth graders will have an opportunity to go to outdoor school through a pilot that was done. So no district funds, just all grants and hard work on their own part. And they hosted a series of family meetings over the last couple of weeks and wanted to share where they were at with the board. Their hope is that we could find a pathway for a sustainable model for outdoor school for every fifth grader, which will be a heavy lift, but they have a lot of great ideas. And so they did a great job of presenting. The other thing that we talked about was our multilingual students and had a presentation on that. Lots of information in that presentation, but I thought one slide in particular that might be of interest to people was just the number of new students that we've had this year, and more than almost 400 students, and the different languages that they speak when they come in and qualify for multilingual services. So you can see that the largest groups are Spanish, Russian, and Ukrainian and Chuukese, but there's a lot of other different languages that are spoken, and our job is to make sure that we're able to welcome them in and give them the services that they need so that they can engage in our schools and our community. I'll pause, and I don't know if there's any comments from the board about the study session in November.
I just want to reaffirm how amazing the teachers were that brought forward the plan for outdoor school. The hours and hours of work that they've put into it are very impressive, and the excitement that they brought to that meeting was intense, and those fifth grade kids are really lucky to have them. So we're very lucky in VPS to have teachers like that.
Okay, the next topic is schools of choice changes, and I know that the board has been discussing this for a while, and we have some people that are interested in that topic tonight, and so I wanted to make sure that we talked about the changes that the board has reviewed and are supporting. The direction that we're going is to move towards whenever one of our schools of choice or programs of choice and the demand exceeds the capacity for that school, then we would apply a lottery to fill that school based on the enrollment of the elementary schools. There are elementary school slots that are determined by the demographics of the school, such as the size of the school and the socioeconomics of the school and the multilingual learners in the school. So for example, if we have a cohort of the class of 2030, for example, and there might be 132 slots in a given school, 9 of those slots might be set aside for Anderson Elementary. The process moving forward can include screening questions specific to the program or school, but the screening questions can't be used to disqualify a student from the lottery. And so the big change this year, there were some changes made last year, but the big change this year is that the interview and recommendation process at VSAA was removed. I want to talk a little about the timeline and then what you've heard and what you've processed in coming to this supporting conclusion. And so this really started back in 21-22 when the district embarked on an equity policy development. They spent most of the year engaging the community around that and gathered more than 8,400 inputs into that process. And one of the goals that emerged from that data was equitable representation in programs of choice. And so since that time, the board has directed staff to review enrollment data, make some minor adjustments to some procedures. And then last year, based on input from VSAA administration, to hold off on any substantial changes to the VSAA process and then revisit again this year. Over last year, when this was going on, we also were embarking on a strategic planning process. And so we had more than 7,000 inputs related to that, which largely affirmed the equity policy goals. So this fall, we reviewed the enrollment data again, looked at input from students, staff, and families, different perspectives. And then the board supported moving in a direction of more consistency across all of our schools of choice and programs of choice. And so that's where we're at today. Some of the considerations that the board shared in their review of the previous procedures and the support of moving in a different direction was just that each student in our district deserves an equal chance to benefit from choice programming. And that was something that was strongly communicated from the public in the equity policy adoption and then affirmed by our board. And then just looking at, as families have been trying to navigate our schools and programs of choice, that creating greater consistency it would limit some barriers of access and confusion around families trying to access this choice programming. Also looking at the current process at ITech that was in place from its inception and the impact it's had on its school community was a part of the review. And then looking at that equity policy goal, and then looking at the enrollment for fall of 2023. Going back to that acceptance slot data that I shared in the previous slide, the board looked at acceptance rates versus allotted slots by neighborhood school. And so when we looked at that data, ITech met 19 of the 21 targets for elementary and VSAA met 9 of the 21. So that doesn't mean that the 21 schools weren't represented. It just means that the goal of having a more equitable representation wasn't met. So for example, if there were 9 slots allotted for Anderson and 11 students accepted, that was more than the slots, or vice versa. If 12 slots were available for Walnut Grove, but only 10 were accepted, then the goal was not met. And so if we lined up acceptance to slots, then the goal was met. So some of the concerns that you all reviewed, because this is a process, the entrance process for our schools of choice have evolved through the years. We've added more schools and more programs and refined those. But one thing that you heard was that the current process really allows staff to better determine who can benefit most from the specific instruction at VSAA. And then also sentiments that the process helped really determine who's really passionate about the arts. That the change might minimize the efforts of the students who were already previously accepted, and some sort of thought around that students should earn their entrance into VSAA. There was some concern shared about this could hurt the reputation of VSAA and compromise academic excellence. And then concerns related to the change that would maybe negatively impact the unique culture that's at VSAA. Then finally, some input that you received was that this wasn't necessarily about a change at VSAA, but a general lack of support for arts programs in general. So I know that you had a lot of challenge in weighing all those inputs and feedback, and then ended up at the recommendation that staff made to move to a consistent process this year. So I'll pause again like I did for the study session and see if the board has any comments about that process or where you're at with it.
So I just got in last night from a 15-hour flight. So I wrote down what I wanted to say to make sure that I got it, because I know this is an issue that is chock full of different opinions. So I apologize for not just talking, but for reading, but I wanted to make sure that I was clear in what I said. So first, I acknowledge that this issue generates deep emotional responses in everyone who's affected or may be affected. VSA connects in a unique and personal way with the community of staff, students, and families. My family experienced this connection when my own daughter attended a little over a decade ago. Her experience at VSA had a profound effect on her path forward in life. I believe that Dr. Stell's presentation carefully highlights the process, beginning with the equity policy we have been through in coming to this decision. I particularly want to remind everyone that VSAA was never intended to be a conservatory school. Rather, its mission has always been to use the arts to meet kids where they are when they join and help them to soar when they leave. Additionally, research around programs of choice and equitable access clearly illuminates that every requirement for acceptance is a barrier to entry. Depending on your support system at home, first language, mental health, and or that of the adults in your orbit, poverty level, housing status, access to outside resources, one barrier could be the reason you choose not to apply. This is not simply about who is and who isn't accepted, but it's also about who does and does not apply because of barriers beyond their control. Personally, I must say that the emails I have received, some of them hurt my heart for two reasons. First, the notion that some kids won't fit. They don't belong. That's just heart-wrenching to this longtime public school teacher. Second, the concept that VSAA's unique culture of community relies on choosing the right students. To all VSAA staff, you sell yourself short when you think this way. It is you that have created that unique and accepting community. It is you that have created the space for children to express themselves in ways that push them. It is you that make those children soar. And to the current VSAA students, you sell yourself short when you think that way. It is you that welcome other students into the school and make them feel belonged. It is you that continue the community of excellence and the community of caring. Do not sell yourself short. Thank you.
I also prepared some thoughts just because I feel a bit passionate about this topic. So bear with me. I know that everyone's here. A lot of you are here for some well-earned recognitions and awards. So I will try to be efficient. As Director Decker has alluded to, we've received a lot of feedback from community members, alumni, students, in the community just concerned about this change. And I want to recognize that change is always hard. We get that. But I've gleaned a lot from the emails similar to what Kathy has said, Director Decker, excuse me. So let me go ahead and get started. Thank you first for the students, especially that used your voice to share your concerns. I think it is always important to weigh in. One thing that we heard was that this was a sudden change without input. And as Dr. Snell went through, there was a long timeline where we have been connecting with the community, engaging, asking for input. And the conversation around representation of programs of choice has been a really strong theme through our equity policy work and also the development of our strategic plan. Despite our efforts of refinement in the process, VSAA is simply not representative of district demographics. Our most marginalized populations and those furthest from educational justice are significantly underrepresented. In all the correspondence we received, a few common arguments have been raised that struck me, and I just wanted to offer an alternate perspective. One thing that's mentioned that Dr. Snell shared is that a random lottery will dilute the school community. This suggests that the average or the randomly selected Vancouver Public School student is just not enough. Our job in public education as leaders, as policymakers, educators, we're here to welcome our students and celebrate the unique gifts that they offer. Cultivate their talents and curiosity so they can all thrive. All of our students should be considered enough for opportunities. Secondly, it's been pointed out repeatedly that our application filters out students that are not serious about or passionate enough about the arts. There's less than a 40% acceptance rate at VSAA. There's a lot of interest in VSAA. That means that the majority of students are already being filtered out. The suggestion that non-serious artists don't belong bestows a prerequisite of prior extracurricular art experience. But that implies it implies that we're expecting our 10 and 11-year-old applicants would come in as accomplished artists. And I think that misses the mark of finding students that are interested and intrigued and helping them grow and sparking that curiosity. Similar to Director Decker, we have a lot of data around who we're accepting and who's applying. For many years, we've been looking at this. But similar to Director Decker, I just want to clarify, what we don't know is the barrier that the process itself is creating. Who are the students that aren't even trying? I had an experience last year where I got to volunteer in a math tutoring program for fifth graders in the district. And I engaged with many fifth graders who said just creative, interested in the arts, but they communicated and expressed that they would never consider applying because it seemed too daunting, too overwhelming. So we have to think about the process itself as a barrier. The last point I really wanted to address is the assertion that the change in the admissions process demonstrates a lack of commitment to the arts. VSA is not the only arts program in the district, nor should it be. It's a small percentage of our students. We have thriving arts programs all over the district. And if I wasn't here tonight, I would be at my middle schooler's orchestra concert. There have been 16 winter concerts in the last month. We have been featuring our student performers doing the national anthem and then other musical performances at the end of our board meetings. We have a thriving arts program in our district. VSAA is not the only option for students interested in the arts. As a former art major, I understand deeply the power of the arts. Exposure to the arts can spark creativity, shape a student's voice, build confidence, engage students to community, and inspire a joy of learning. As passionate as I am about the arts, I am equally passionate that all students deserve access to the arts. I'm gonna, please indulge me, this is one personal anecdote. I shared that I was an art major, and I just want to illustrate the idea of arts for all. I attended a four-year university and I started absolutely not on a track of arts. I was in social sciences with career plans and business. Just by taking a couple elective courses, I found a new passion and means to express myself and a true love of learning. I ultimately switched majors and completed a Bachelor of Arts in Visual Arts. I graduated and without hesitation pursued my intended career path in business. I have never been or never wanted to be a professional artist. However, to this day, those 30 credit hours towards my arts major are the most academically and fulfilling, and they are responsible for tremendous personal growth. My point here is that I am confident all VPS students can flourish at VSAA, and I believe that all students should have equal access to this opportunity. The last comment I want to add is a student wrote in that they were worried VSAA would lose its magic. And so first, I just want to say what a beautiful sentiment that a student feels that there's magic at the school. But I would answer to that student, you keep the magic by staying welcoming, by including your peers, by inspiring your peers, by celebrating your peers, and building community. This is about honoring the work of our equity policy and removing barriers and just supporting opportunities for all of our students to thrive. I apologize for being long-winded.
I think you guys eloquently captured a lot of the thoughts that I think all of us on the board have. So I don't have too much to add to that other than I would echo what you have both said. For me, it was really, it's really thinking about the barrier that the application process itself creates with the interviews and the letters of recommendation. And not so much that that process itself, like you said, Director Spohl, that it can create a barrier that would make students not even want to apply, even though they have interest, because an interview process can be overwhelming, or asking for letters of recommendation. I think in my own work in public schools, I work with a lot of students who have learning disabilities, have anxiety, have autism or other, communication disorders, and that process can be very overwhelming, and to the point that you had said, to where students, that barrier, that application process is a barrier in and of itself. And so it's not so much once you do apply, being able to overcome some of those, but even just having to apply. We have read so many comments and so many emails and have taken into consideration all of the feedback that we have gotten, and different emails and different communications have hit us in a different way. And one that really got to me was, a parent who talked about their child being able to overcome their anxiety in the interview process, and how much it was such a growth experience. And I thought that was so amazing, but I thought about the other student with anxiety that wouldn't be able to overcome that to apply or to interview, or might interview not so well and wouldn't be able to showcase and might actually need a school like VSA more to provide that opportunity to be able to flourish and kind of take a longer process to open up and kind of build that confidence. And so for me, that's kind of what I think about when I think about removing these barriers to this process, is these other students that are going to have that opportunity.
Everyone's spoken so eloquently, I'm hesitant to say anything. But I'm not hesitant in this decision, quite honestly. I feel very confident that this is the right decision. I want to thank all three of you for speaking so well about the board's thought process and consideration, and all of the concerns that we clearly share. I feel like we're very unified on this particular topic. You have all spoken about your own personal experiences, and I think we all have brought that perspective to this decision. Certainly as a classroom teacher, I can tell you about any number of students that I've had that struggled in my class, my subject area of social studies, which is not necessarily an easy subject area. If you don't have strong academic skills, but I have seen blossom and flourish in performances on the stage, in performances of a completely different student, that have incredible gifts, incredible talents, incredible passions, but would never in a million years even attempt the application process that's been used. They would just count themselves out, and that's heartbreaking to think about. So I think, I mean, all of us are kind of bringing that wide variety of experiences as educators, as parents, as art majors. I didn't even know that about you. That has informed this process, but I also want to go back to the data. Like, we have dug deep into the data, and over the course of several years, looked at this data repeatedly. And there have been changes made here and tweaks made there, and effort to kind of try to get something different to happen. And it just seems to be stagnant. So we're definitely not seeing the progress that we had hoped to see in the past with past changes. So I'm super optimistic about this particular change. I'm excited to see what comes out of it, but also know that we will keep looking at this data and we'll keep monitoring the progress. That it's not like a necessarily a done, tie a bow on it process, that this is something that we'll keep looking at every year, to make sure that we're creating a process that works for all of our students.
I want to thank our board directors. I think, yes, we are all on the same sentiment. As the role as board chair, I'm really the one where, as chair, we respond to these emails, right? And so I just have to say, it's been really disheartening to really receive these emails. I don't know. I thought we could do better. I guess I'm just gonna say that. And I do just want to read this because this is what we keep referring to, which is our equity policy. We believe that it is the right of every student to have an equitable education experience within Vancouver Public Schools. We further believe that the responsibility for supporting student success and educational equity is broadly shared by our school, community, including by the board, district administration, district employees, our families, and the community at large. The district is guided by the belief that educational equity benefits every student, which in turn benefits our entire community. We embrace a concept of educational equity that goes beyond formal equity opportunity to benefit equally. Therefore, Vancouver Public Schools will strive to provide a learning environment for all students that is enriching, equitable, and affirming of diversity. Thank you.
I appreciate the comments, and know that there's folks that want to comment in the public comment part of the agenda as well. So I'll move us a little quickly through this next topic. We traditionally will have some questions about accessing curriculum and learning standards, and people wondering about what's taught in the classroom and how do we partner around that. And so this time, typically every other year, we kind of highlight this. And so just for our community, if you're curious about what's happening in the social studies classroom, or often it is centered around health and sexual education, it's all on our website. You're able to drill down and see sample lessons and frequently asked questions that can kind of highlight what we do in schools. And sometimes there's just a misperception about what's happening. And so you can keep drilling down as far as you want to see these lessons. And then you can also contact the schools and talk with the teacher about those lessons and what that means for your family. This is another example about social studies and some of the core things that we have around, like, for example, responsible citizens, and you can drill down through that to see what that might look like in a 6th grade or an 8th grade classroom with curriculum samples as well. So just encourage, if you have questions about that, to check that out. And if you have any feedback for us about how to make that more accessible for families, please don't hesitate to let us know. It's really important that we partner together to support our students. And then finally today, I mentioned that we'll come back to a budget update. Many of these slides are slides that we've shown each meeting and that you've talked about trying to make our budget more accessible to the public through some interactive tools. And then looking at whenever we build a budget, we have to work through revenue variables and then expenditure variables. And so typically over the course of developing the next year's school budget, you start to check off some of these. So the first thing was our levy last fall or last February that was approved by the community. So thank you so much for that. That is one variable then of knowing that we have consistent local funding for 4 years. We also look at enrollment. We have had a driver around special education as more students are qualifying for services. And then we've also had the COVID relief dollars are phasing out now. So the real unknown still with the revenue is the legislative session, which will be starting here at the new year. Our expenditure costs, much like any household income budget, any business budget right now is that we're facing increased labor costs and a tighter labor market. And so to get the great people, it costs more than it did 2-3 years ago. And we anticipate that will trend up still. And then that combined with increased student need kind of creates a recipe for some tension there of how do we reconcile that moving forward. And so the part that I'm hoping the board can kind of help us with tonight is looking at our reduction range. And so we started off talking about a 5 to 10% reduction for the 24-25 budget. And really, I've asked you to look at the data, kind of look at where we're trending and to narrow that for us so that as a staff, we can understand what are our next steps and how do we go about doing that. Because adding staff is a lot different than reducing staff. It impacts individuals, it impacts programming. We want to be really thoughtful about that and, honor the dignity of each individual person and respect the program that is in place. I know you as a board, when you approve the budget, you consider each position as very valuable and essential. So I'll pause there and see if there's any discussion on this reduction target.
I want to start by saying I really appreciate that we are having public conversations around the budget, almost year round. I think especially going into a reduction cycle, it is important that we're transparent with our community around the decisions we're making. I have the honor of serving on the budget committee with Director Smith, and we had a very lengthy conversation recently just about how we will approach the decisions, and of course, recognizing we want to protect classrooms, really. I mean, that's has the biggest impact on students, but also recognizing that all of our support staff in the building are there because they offer tremendous support for our staff and students. So none of these decisions will be easy. I think the other thing is just thinking through our timeline and wanting to make sure we afford as much dignity to the process and give our staff as much timing to consider options. So those, I think, for now are the key takeaways for me. But it's surreal, the different conversations we're having now versus when we have, a huge sum of money dumped in our lap for ESSER. We had very different conversations about how we will invest those funds, and now we are in a different position. So anyways, thank you, Brett and Dr. Snell, for putting this work together.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the thanks to both Dr. Snell and Brett Blutschmidt, our CFO. Serving on the budget committee is not the most exciting job in the world. But I mean, when we got that ESSER money, it sure was. And that's not to say that it's not exciting now. It's actually heartbreaking right now because they're really very difficult conversations. And so I just really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the compassion with which we all approach these decisions. I think it's fair to say that schools are easily one of the most economically efficient public entities that you're ever going to find. Like we don't, even in the best of times, we don't just throw money around. We're not wasteful in our spending. We milk every dollar for what we can get out of it. So it's really hard when you're looking at such significant cuts because the vast majority, I mean, the biggest biggest item of spending is on our staff. And so we're talking about losing people who are incredibly valuable to us, who love their work, love our students, and just make our district so much better for being part of it. So it's an incredibly difficult challenge to be thinking about how do we make these decisions that we know are going to diminish the experience for students, but still preserve as much of it as we possibly can. And there's just no easy way to do that. So obviously, we're still very early in the discussion of where those cuts might happen. But it's a very slow and thoughtful process. It's not something that we're treating very casually at all, which is why we're trying to do it as quickly as possible so we can let people know, but we also want to be super careful about it.
I also want to mention that, first of all, thank you to Director Sproul and Director Smith for serving as our representatives on the budget committee, and then everybody bringing back that information so we can make these decisions with a lot of data and detail and with heart. I want to make sure everybody knows that you can access all of this information on our website and look at what is happening, what our previous budgets have been, where the money is and where the money has been going. We're not hiding it. We've got full transparency on how the money is used, where the money is coming from or not coming from in this case. So please educate yourself too and look at what is in front of us. And if you have some wonderful ideas, that would be terrific, because we love our community, and the thought of having to release anybody within our community or affect our students in any kind of negative way is also heart-wrenching. So thanks.
I think just from a budget committee perspective, the feedback that I got from you all was that we're narrowing down and that the reductions are most likely in the 8 to 10% range versus the 5. And so when we look at the 8 to 10% range, we're not able to absorb that in a way of just through attrition. And so typically in our organization, we do have, a number of people that leave for retirement or other decisions. And like last year when we made some reductions, we were able to do that through attrition. This year, with that target being set by you at the 8% threshold and above, we'll have to go through some reduction in force processes, which means that in our board meetings, we'll be talking about that and working with our labor leaders to execute that in a way that really is as transparent as we can be. And like you have directed us to be as soon as possible for staff so that they have a lot of time to think about if they do not have a job, what does that look like and how can they find a job? So appreciate that. Appreciate the discussion tonight. And with that, that is the end of the superintendent report. And I think we'll go into recognition if that's okay.
Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us. So tonight, we will move into our excellence awards and recognitions. We recognize staff for their accomplishments within our district. Our Executive Director of Human Resources, Jeff Fish, will read the name of each staff member and a short description of why the employee has been chosen to receive this award. If you are being recognized, please walk to the podium so we may present you with your certificate or plaque. Please then pause in front of the backdrop for an individual photo. Once all names in our award group has been read, our Superintendent Jeff Snell and I will join you for a photo. And if you choose to leave after this portion of the meeting, we just ask that you exit quietly.
Thank you, Director Duvall. It's time to recognize the December Employee Excellence Award recipients. The The following employees were selected by a committee of their peers for commitment to the students and staff of Vancouver Public Schools. These recipients were among the many outstanding nominees who create a caring environment and positive workplace through their exceptional efforts. For information about each recipient or to submit a nomination, please visit the district's website. First, we have Dixie Archer, teacher at Vida Elementary. Dixie Archer is truly an exceptional educator at Vida Elementary, and the students in her class are fortunate to have such an inspiring teacher. One nominator shares, the atmosphere in her classroom exudes positivity and joy, creating a learning environment that feels almost magical. She goes above and beyond by empowering students to assume leadership roles, encouraging mutual support, and promoting the understanding that our differences make us all valuable. Thank you, Dixie. Next, we have Brooke Igarta, teacher at Hauk Elementary. Brooke Igarta from Hauk Elementary is a dedicated, kind, and hardworking teacher. Says one nominator, she is one of the most dedicated teachers I have had the privilege of meeting. Brooke has such a positive impact on students' learning by helping them gain confidence and empowering them to be themselves. She has a lasting impact on our students, preparing them for continued success in their learning journey. Thank you, Brooke. Next, we have William Johnson, the auditorium manager at Skyview High School. William Johnson, the auditorium manager at Skyview, has an incredible passion for the performing arts. William supports the work in several different ways, including lighting and tech for assemblies and presentations, coaching the performers, designing sets and lighting for productions, and operating the video and sound. He has also advocated for improvements to the auditorium over the years and has been extremely helpful to peers with support and advice. Thank you, William. Next, we have Darby Mead, principal at iTech. Darby Mead, the principal at iTech Preparatory, demonstrates exceptional leadership and a genuine concern for the well-being of families and students. He is approachable, accessible, and committed to establishing a personal connection with everyone in the school community, engaging with students, parents, and staff. He promotes a culture at iTech that encourages students to keep growing and trying new things in a supportive environment. Thank you, Darby. Next, we have Lisa Reed, the principal at Hazeldale Elementary. Lisa Reed, the principal at Hazeldale Elementary, has created a culture of equity, excellence, belonging, and joy for students and teachers alike. She has worked with the staff and the entire VPS community to create a clear vision and mission for learning goals focused on equity through literacy. Literacy outcomes have improved due to her hard work. Despite her competing priorities as a building administrator, she always finds the time to lift up those around her. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks to all of our recipients. Tonight, we will also recognize members of our staff for their leadership and dedication to VPS students and their families by being the recipients of the Rolla Mitchell Service Award that goes to Carl Leonard and Barry Young. I'm proud to introduce Dave Bennett, who will be presenting the awards.
Good evening, Dr. Snell, board directors, and members of the community. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to present the Rolla Mitchell Service Award. This is an award that we normally present at our August Coaches Institute. Our recipients were not available that date. And to be honest, I think in this instance, it deserves a broader audience as well. The Rolla Mitchell Service Award is awarded to individuals who support VPS athletics programs with the highest of standards. Rolla Mitchell was a custodian at Kiggins Bowl and Propstra Stadium from 1996 to 2006. Rolla had a great passion for his job. He was a perfectionist who could fix anything, and he made work look effortless. More importantly, Rolla was a man who loved people. He was a mentor to others. He always had a smile on his face. He treated everyone with respect, and he made others feel important. It's my honor to present this year's Rolla Mitchell Service Award to co-recipients Carl Leonard and Barry Young in recognition of their service and leadership in the elementary skillery program. Barry Young coached the skillery program for 14 years while teaching at Salmon Creek Elementary and continued to coach after moving to the middle school level to teach. He then moved into the position of skillery co-director for the next 23 years for a total of 37 years in the program. Carl Leonard participated in the skillery program as an elementary student and began coaching the year after graduating from Hudson's Bay High School. He served as co-director of the program for the past 22 years, a total of 39 years in the program. We know that students who participate in athletics and activities have a more positive and successful experience in school. And the elementary skilleries provide an introduction to education-based athletics for many of our students. With approximately 500 students participating in volleyball and basketball skilleries each year, and approximately 1,200 students participating in the area track meets, Carl and Barry have impacted the lives of over 50,000 VPS students in these programs. Thank you, Barry and Carl, for your years of service and leadership in the elementary skillery program.
Thank you for your service, Carl and Barry. And now we would like to recognize our athletes who have received individual and team medals for Washington State athletic competitions. First, we have Jacob McManus, second place in the 5,000 meter Washington State cross country. Congratulations to Jacob McManus from Columbia River High School. Jacob won the second place trophy at the Washington State Cross Country Championships for the 5,000 meter run. He had a tremendous season, breaking the course record and winning first place at the district championship on the way to state. And he was named the Columbians Regional Cross Country Athlete of the Year. We also want to thank Coach Dave Solberg for his support of Jacob and the team. Dave was also recognized as Coach of the Year. Congratulations to Jacob and Coach Solberg. And now we have the volleyball state champions from Columbia River High School. Congratulations to Columbia River girls for their back-to-back state volleyball championship. I am pleased, back-to-back-to-back. Thank you for the correction. I'm pleased to introduce Brianne Smedley to share brief remarks and introduce the team.
Our team. I feel incredibly honored to be surrounded by such an incredible group of talented, hardworking, and kind student athletes. It has truly been a stat-worthy season. For those of you who do not know, we were undefeated, 30-0 record. Yep. It doesn't end there though. Okay, we are league champions, district champions, back-to-back state champions, something that no team of any sport has done in this area and no 2A volleyball team has done for the past 22 years, all while maintaining a team GPA of 3.87. Yes. Truly phenomenal. Yes, they are 3-time state champions, but they're also an incredible group of young women who represent Columbia River High School and the Vancouver School District. Hardworking, loyal, kind, humble, and smart. They have done a phenomenal job of being role models for our community and our youth while leaving a unique stamp on this program for years to come. So I want to thank all who have supported us along the way, every parent, fan, coach, administrator who is a part of this journey. So thank you. I'm going to introduce our team, our 2023 state champion team. And some of them have earned local, regional, state, and national recognition. So I'm going to mention some of that as well. So first up, we have Logan DeYoung, first team all league, second team all region, and all state team honorable mention. Lauren Dreves, GSHL Player of the Year, Region Player of the Year, State Player of the Year, and Gatorade Player of the Year nominee, which is a national honor. Sydney Dreves, first team all league, first team all region, second team all state. Sophia Gurley, Caitlin Kessler, Aria McCarcel, Macy McCoy, first team all league, first team all region, first team all state. Ellie OG, second team all league, Carly OG, Avery Seeley, Haley Scheidner, and Evie Wenger, all league honorable mention, and assistant coach Luke Carlson. Oh. Definitely gonna have to, yeah, maybe somebody else, maybe somebody else has to do it for today. And then everybody. And 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
So next on our agenda, we have our audience participation, our public comments. Public comments is the time in our meeting where the board and the administrative staff welcome comments from the public. If you would like to address the board and did not have an opportunity to sign in at the start of the meeting, please do so now. You may continue to sign in at any time during the public comments portion of our meeting. We ask that you approach the podium and state your name and affiliation with the district for the record. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. When you hear a chime, please conclude your remarks. If you have materials or additional comments you would like the board to review, please hand them to the staff in the back of the room. This information will be provided to the superintendent and the board. Because most matters require fact-finding and review, and the state's Open Public Meetings Act restricts deliberation on topics that have not been placed on the publicly noticed agenda in advance, the board is not able to respond to any public comments made at this time. If follow-up action is necessary, the board will ask the superintendent to work with administrative staff to consider the information and respond accordingly. As a regular business meeting of the board, we expect the audience to conduct themselves professionally and courteously. Speakers are also expected to be respectful. We ask the audience to refrain from clapping, cheering, or commenting while others give public comments. Whether you are in support or against, we recognize that there are diverse beliefs and feelings across our stakeholders in our district. The one thing we have in common is that we all want to do what is best for our children. We are here today to work towards their future, and the board asks that personnel complaints be submitted in writing. Disruptive conduct may cause the meeting to be adjourned and all audience members to be removed. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our community. So thank you for your comments. We do have a couple virtual, but they're not there. Okay. I will start with those who signed up through our website first, and then go through those who signed up here. So just when you do come up to the podium, please state your name and your affiliation to our district. You will have 3 minutes. So Madeline Lapierre, no, Carly Clay, Natalie Herman, Brendan Bailey, Mary Sellers, Jerry Swadish. There we go.
My name is Jerry Swatosh, and I'm a teacher at the Vancouver School of Arts and Academics. May I start?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Dear Dr. Snell, VPS School Board, and community members, thank you for this opportunity to hear public comment. I was born and raised in Vancouver. Both my parents were educators in this district, one an elementary principal, one a teacher. I attended Marshall, Mac, and Fort, graduating in 1981. During my second year as a teacher, I was invited to help plan Vancouver School of Arts and Academics in October of 1992. I continued to teach at Fort during our 4 years of planning until we opened in September of 1996, and I've been teaching at VSAA for 28 years. I value our school district. I want to be part of how we grow, and communication like this is an important part of that process. VSAA is an interest-based school, not merit, not talent-based. We established this very early on in our planning process with input from more than 60 community members meeting at the Norris Road Annex where John Rogers Elementary School once stood, if you've been around a while and you remember that. We collectively chose not to be talent-based or merit-based, but rather we wanted to honor the tremendous research regarding the power of attending a school where students, one, feel valued, because they are like-minded in their passion and appreciation for the arts, and two, willing to grow from experiencing the arts through the expression, critical thinking, and collaboration that it provides. There's been a lot of misinformation and confusion, and some of this is disheartening to me as well. We, as a staff and a student body, also want to reduce barriers. We are far more diverse than we once were. With room for growth, we go into elementary schools with high reduced lunch rates to try and, to try and inform and remove barriers. And we would love nothing more than to work with you, alongside you, to have open conversations about how we could better do that together, which I think could be incredibly helpful and powerful. Some of the concerns of a lottery, and I think because it came about really late and without those conversations, made it a little difficult. But I think some of the problems can be that students who are applying may or may not really understand the uniqueness of any of the schools and programs, not just about VSAA, about all the schools and programs of choice, and making sure that they have a way to do that, and that it may or may not be a good match for their needs and their goals. All programs and schools of choice need space to be able to inform and communicate and create perhaps an interactive experience if possible. And again, in that way of reducing barriers. So potential applicants to the lottery know what they signed up for.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Shauna Grace. Once you start speaking, no worries. We're not counting your time when you're walking.
My name is Shauna Grace, and I'm a proud alumni of the Vancouver School of Arts and Academics. I'm also a member of the Screen Actors Guild. I happen to be an executive producer in film, and I also run a large business alongside my mother that also owns and manages its own real estate holdings in the Pacific Northwest, as well as Vancouver School District. I understand as a board member the fiduciary responsibilities bestowed upon you by your appointment to this board. Some of these responsibilities include implementing changes and taking action with the intention of keeping the best interests of the district and its members in mind. Obviously, based off of your reaction, as well as the reaction and response from students, parents in the community, there has been a breakdown in communication regarding how this implementation has come forth. Instead, this action highlights the possibility that this decision was made by only considering cost efficiency and streamlining an admissions process district-wide for schools of choice that will appear to satisfy the current equity policies in place without actually investigating the research also associated with lottery-based systems and how they can in turn affect and at times, dare I say, further already marginalized groups of people. There's a lot of research out there. I would encourage you to look into that as well. The equity policy adopted in October 2020 under Section 2, Item E states, the board commits to equitable representation in programs of choice, implementation of additional processes to improve school culture and climate, including reducing discipline disparities, as well as increased in community voice and perspectives for underserved and marginalized populations, removing the opportunity for students to be seen and heard and replacing it with a computerized system falls short of these commitments. Allowing the student the opportunity to find their voice and use their voice is something that VSAA advocates fiercely for. There's a better solution to this problem. And one possible solution that I would like to put forth for you all to consider with respect is perhaps starting by electing a special committee made of consciously diverse groups of parents, alumni, district employees, et cetera, to ensure members of the community and of all backgrounds are represented. Allow this committee instead to propose 3 possible solutions to the board that align with the district's adopted equity policy with focus on providing an equal opportunity to all students in VSAA's admission process, with consideration to implicit bias, equitable representation in schools of choice, and ensuring an increased community voice and perspective for marginalized and underserved populations. Yes, VSAA is different. It's not typical nor rudimentary in how it teaches its curriculum. VSAA has given back to the community and is worthy of a voice and the opportunity and input in its own fate by being given the opportunity for VSAA and the community at large who have an interest to find a different path that provides a more equitable solution for all involved. My heart with hearing you wonderful board members with what you had received via email also breaks my heart. But I feel like there absolutely is another solution. This may be now a call to action, right? There's clearly a response, through this choice being made. And so instead of just putting it in, let's all come together and see what possibilities we can create.
Thank you, Shauna. Isaac Hammond.
Hi, my name is Isaac Heyman. I'm a freshman at VSAA, and I'd like to state the issue I have with my school becoming a lottery system. I feel like in a way it is telling kids that it doesn't matter how hard you try, it's just the luck of the draw if you get in, which in the end, that's not how the real world works. And I'm not saying the other way was perfect. There are definitely some flaws in it, but it was better since it taught us kids that if we really, really wanted something, we had to work hard for it because it wasn't just going to fall into our laps. When I think about how detrimental it would have been if I say got into a sports school, I shudder. All the kids who go to this school need this place, and they work so hard to get here and stay here as well. you probably all do know that the school body is very upset about this because you did not seek student voices in this situation. Because I can tell you from all the students that we have a lot of strong negative feelings about your decision that you are making. And we all just want to ask you to please reconsider your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. Next we have Jim Jeffers.
Jim Jeffers, 36 years as a teacher, retired a few years ago. I'm gonna read fast because if you're cutting me off at 3 minutes, I may ask you for 36 extra seconds, 1 second for every year I taught. I've already emailed each of you, so it's not a surprise to you that I disagree with your decision to change to a blind lottery for VSAA after having an interview process for the previous 28 years. So I'm going to focus on your decision-making process that led to this because the Columbian said it's final this morning. I was a full-time teacher in Vancouver for 36 years. I have many, many fond memories. When asked what the memories are that weren't so good in the district, my response has always been when I felt like I've had decisions done to me rather than done with me. And I know you've collected thousands of data points, but how many days or hours did each of you spend at the site that is most affected by this decision? Did any of you participate in the interview process last year or any year? Did any of you sit down and talk to any of the teachers about their professional opinions and experiences? Last week, after the email, I got an email reply from Dr. Snell that said a year ago there was a discussion with VSAA administration about making a change, but the change was not made, and VSAA would monitor progress towards equitable representation, unquote. Then this year, without further discussion with VSAA staff, it becomes a blind lottery through a decision from above without real input from those closest to the impact of that major decision. Most of the teachers there have advanced degrees and have been in the district for over 2 decades. They've chosen to be there because of their passion to teach with art at the center, but not fully including them in the decision-making process. You ignore their passion and their intelligence. Not actively including those closest to the impacts of those decisions is, in my mind, a mistake. Doing so, you make 4 key mistakes. 1, you didn't include their expertise, understanding, and history of the teachers, administrators, and students. Student voice is really important to me. And many of those teachers have been there for over 25 years. Number 2, it's a project-based art school. You don't think by sitting down with them and saying, let's get creative and innovative and try to solve this problem, that they couldn't come up with a hybrid maybe or something that would work better. But you went by the book, and I believe suffered from groupthink with an incomplete decision-making process that focused more on making everything the same across the district. Many of you have worked with Tom Dudley in the past. I did for many years. He always told me, fair is not always equal, and equal is not always fair. Number 3, the mistake, when individuals who are close to a problem are involved in the decision-making process, students, staff, parents, they are more likely to feel a sense of ownership and commitment to that chosen course of action. You've damaged that. You just heard from a student that they're angry. They weren't part of it. And number 4, last and most important, including individuals close to a problem fosters a culture of trust and collaboration. When people feel their input is valued, give me 36 seconds, please. When people feel that their input is valued, it promotes a positive working environment.
Thank you.
Okay. So you guys.
Trish Hammond.
My name is Trish Heyman. I'm a VSAA parent, and I'm also an elementary school teacher at a Title I school in Vancouver Public Schools. And I want to thank the board, those that are listening and taking notes. I really do appreciate your attention to these concerns. I also adamantly oppose going to a lottery system. And there's actually were some comments made by the board that I found quite misleading, because I work with the 5th graders on coaching them for the interview process. And I know for a fact that there are students that have been accepted that did not have strong arts background or skills that had not taken any classes. And actually, if you looked at their art, would consider it quite elementary and not professional in nature. Also, the student, one in particular I'm thinking of, also had an IEP, had a 504. And I could go on and on about these students that I've coached. And I just want to ask you a few questions. Is there a lottery system when you apply to college? Is there a lottery system when you apply for a job? Is there a lottery system when you apply to a tech school? The answer to all these questions is no. And I feel like this decision that you're making is adding to a systemic teaching of learned helplessness by our students. As I mentioned, I work in a Title I school. Learned helplessness is something that I battle as a teacher every single day that I go to work. But when I was able to coach students, which I might add would be quite a wonderful solution to this issue. If you had staff at each of your elementary schools who is actively seeking out applicants, which I did, and coaching them to apply for this wonderful school and really sharing with them the realities of what it is like to attend this school, you're going to have all of the students that I coached were able to get in, and they did not come and celebrate with me, oh, thank you for helping me. Their celebration was, look what I did. Look what I accomplished. And that's what you're taking away because it's just a ball. It's just a drawing out of a hat. And I encourage you to go back and watch Waiting for Superman. A lottery system has been proven that that is not the most effective or more equitable way to deal with schools of choice. My other issue is the mental health issue, because if you go to VSAA and hang out there, these are the students who are marginalized in your traditional high schools. They're in the shadows. They don't feel welcome. They don't feel a part of the community. When we work and work and work to make them feel a part of the community in a regular high school, we don't have to do that at VSAA. Because that is such a special school, because everybody there just fits. It's an important part of that process. And I just am so terrified for my students at my school who will sit and wait for a ball to drop and won't have that opportunity. And to me, it feels so inequitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Jeff Sellers.
I'm a VSAA parent. I don't know a lot about lottery versus merit or interest-based. I'd like to have more information and learn more. I know this isn't a question for him, but I would hope to talk to a board member afterwards to find out where I can find more information and educate myself. I think it's a noble pursuit to have more inclusion and diversity at VSAA. The thing that I do have a concern about is I don't understand how making it a lottery system reaches out to the community, to the members that might not have considered applying. What can we do to get them to apply and encourage them to apply? And then if English is a second language, I have a concern about there being a foundation of support once they reach VSAA. My daughter was bilingual and fluent in Spanish after she finished Sarah J. There's no dual language at VSAA. You can't start taking Spanish until I believe 8th or 9th grade. So if Spanish is your first language, who's going to help those students succeed in that environment? So I have a few concerns that once we get more diversity there, that there's a foundation in place to help those kids succeed. And once again, hopefully I can speak with one of you so I can get more information and educate myself. The only thing I was able to find online for a school that went from merit to lottery based was Lowell High School in San Francisco. When they were merit based, their freshman class, the first semester, there was 7.7% of the kids that had a D or an F in that school in their first semester. When they went to lottery the next year, that number increased to 24.4%. And I think no matter which side of this argument you're on, you can agree that that's not the way we want that to go. We want the best education for our kids possible. So that changed back to a merit system after 2 years, and now they're considering going back to lottery. So it's created a huge rift in the community that actually had a school board recall where 3 members were replaced. I don't think we want that. So hopefully we can come together and find some sort of solution. that people are happy with. I doubt anyone's going to have an epiphany tonight that makes everyone happy. It's a tough situation. I hope we can all educate ourselves more and make an informed decision. I was encouraged to hear that this isn't necessarily a final decision, that we're going to review it. I believe that's what Board Member Smith said. And I'd like to know the timetable and what the criteria will be for judging whether or not this change is successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Christopher Smith.
Hi, my name is Christopher Smith, and I'm employed as a paraeducator in Vancouver School District. It's been a minute since I've addressed you all, but it's nice to see you again. I am not talking on the topic of the night. So sorry about that subject change. I'm sure we'll get back to it in a minute. I wanted to talk about the upcoming reduction in force. Obviously, that's a topic of some concern to me as a classified staff member, since we're the first ones on the chopping block every time. You shared that your biggest expenditure is staff. I need to emphasize that that's for a reason. Your biggest expenditure is for staff because we're the ones who are working directly with students. And if you approach any employee in the entire school district who works directly with students and ask them if they feel like we have enough staff, they will tell you that no, we are understaffed in an unsafe way, in multiple ways, which I will touch on in a moment. You shared that these staff are valuable to you. Well, I got to tell you, it's not going to be a relationship taking a break situation here. We're not going to be waiting for your phone call. We're going to find another job. Maybe not the place to air this, but I'm about to be job searching. I can't afford to live on this salary. And I've explored other employment with the district actually as a long-term substitute. But we're not going to wait for you to call back. You will be losing these employees who you have valued for so long. Their valuable experience will be lost. Now, on that topic of experience and inexperience, when COVID rolled around, a lot of people had to find a different living situation, a different working situation. I get that. We had an agreement that you would be allowed to hire outside contractors who are not represented by our union and do not get benefits from you to come and fill those spaces because we just needed bodies in the room for safety. We needed to keep eyes on kids. 3 years later, here we are, same situation. Now, some of these contractors are amazing, wonderful people who are great at their jobs. Some of them. They are not subject to the same scrutiny and requirements that you are asking of your paraeducators who need to have either a 2-year degree or who need to complete 70 hours of training and a certification. Meanwhile, these people are being recruited right out of high school, sometimes being put directly back into high schools at the same age as the high schoolers. Some of them are amazing at what they do, and some of them are lacking in training. And this creates safety situations. I know that their companies are supposed to handle their training. I've done safe schools. That doesn't teach you how to do that. So I would love for us to come to a conclusion here that I think is pretty obvious in any other labor market. If you can't attract enough workers, you need to attract more workers. And we do that with higher pay or better benefits. And doing this couple percent at a time thing is not going to get us there.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Next, we have Heather Vian.
Hello, my name is Heather Vian. I'm a mother and I have 2 kids and I live in the Vancouver School District. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the board. I've really enjoyed and appreciated and valued using the schools and honoring our flag and our national anthem. And it's been a pleasure to hear students playing and showing their skills. I hope that that is not just a this year thing, but I hope it is something that you guys consider continuing on. I want to make a quote from the Washington State Early Learning and Development Guidelines, Birth through third grade, which was adopted in April of 2012. It does state that learning starts with families and communities. Families are their children's first, most important and lifelong teachers. They are also responsible for their children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter what, until the children grow up. Parents and families care about their children and look for ways to support their healthy growth. This can be hard work. Parents embed their children in a web of relatives, friends, and social networks, and this community offers safety, opportunities, learning, and support. So this document, I think, clearly states why it's important to have healthy family support, as well as working community with the school district and for our children. I also want to bring up a huge concern of mine. I understand that this House bill was not put in order by this committee and has nothing to do with what this committee has done or not done. But in the state of Washington, as of April 12th, 2023, our state government passed House Bill 5599, which states, and it is for youth seeking protected healthcare services, which was defined as gender affirming treatments and reproductive healthcare services. Any person, youth shelter, runaway, or homeless youth program without legal authorization provides shelter to a minor that has no time of providing the shelter. That minor is away from the lawfully prescribed residence or home without parental permission shall report location of child to the parent, law enforcement, and to the Department of Children and Family Services. It may seem really innocent, and then you continue to read, if there are compelling reasons to not notify the parent, the shelter or organization must only notify the Department of Health for Children's Services. So the compelling reasons would be to.
Thank you, Heather.
All right, I'll let you read it later.
Chris Jones.
Hi, I'm Chris Jones. I have a son at VSAA and a disappointed daughter that she won't be able to apply and compete in the same way that her brother was allowed to try. The admissions process that is being discussed is a violation of the district's policy code 2265P in section 4. And it sets out in detail the admission process that this is in place in the district. Part A states that the staff, principal, and advisory committee will identify the core characteristics, interests, skills, and knowledge for a successful student and determine the weight given to each characteristic. Part B and C state that the application and selection process will identify and assess those characteristics by multiple sources of evidence. The sources of evidence may include things such as written application, interview, demonstration of past work. Each core characteristic shall be assessed by at least 2 sources of evidence. Thus, the application and selection process that assess core characteristics in the administration process is actually in the policy and required by policy as it's written now. Part F states that the staff selection committee will review all submitted applications according to the pre-established procedure. The selection process will be developed in consultation with the staff, advisory committee, principal, and the superintendent. Part F goes on to state that the school will select students based on one of 2 options, either using the school's pre-established screening and scoring process and the ASI system, which is an equity-based system, or using the school's pre-established screening process and the lottery system. Notice that both options, by policy, the school screening process where the staff selection committee assesses all the submitted applications occurs in partnership with either the ASI system or the lottery system. Whether a school uses the equity ASI system or the non-equity lottery-based system as a tool during the selection process. In both options, by policy, those applications have to be assessed, screened, and found to meet the school's core characteristics for success using multiple sources of evidence. And that's the group that forms the pool of students that these tools, the ASI system or the lottery system, interacts with. The district has detailed policies for the admission process at a choice school. And this change as it is currently presented is in direct contradiction to that district's policy for choice schools. So based on that, until the action and the policy can be reconciled, the process should halt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next, we have Lauren Zep.
Hello, my name's Lauren Zeff. I'm a mom and a grandma, homeowner, business owner in Vancouver. It's good to see Jerry Swatosh. She was one of my daughter's teachers who went to VSAA, Elizabeth Zeff, and Mr. Jeffries. In fact, I don't have much to say tonight because I was going to say something else, but I did not know about VSAA. So my attention is here. If I do not use my 3 minutes, I wonder if I could offer them to Mr. Jeffries to finish. But what I want to say about VSAA is that it is unique, and unique is good. We do want to give all of our students a good education, but all of our kids are not the same as each other. And VSAA has a very unique intake for a very unique program. And I'll tell you, my daughter, when she graduated, oh, there's so much to say. It was a wonderful experience for her and challenging, and it grew her in ways you could never imagine. But when we went to look for colleges afterward, what we found out was that the excellence of the programs and the teachers and the community made her into a student who had already accomplished what she would have accomplished in the first 2 years of an arts college. It is just remarkable, and to change it would not be for the benefit of the students or our community in any way. So thank you.
Thank you so much. No, we don't share the minutes. Thank you. No, we have changed the policy. We only have 3 minutes for each. So thank you to all of you who shared public comments. As I mentioned at the start of our meeting, the board cannot respond directly to any public comments or questions because Washington State's Open Public Meetings Law requires the district to provide advance notice of topics that will be discussed. Although we cannot respond to our individual comments, it is important that we state that the board's unequivocal support for each and every one of our students. All of our students have value and deserve to be respected for who they are. We welcome, value, and promote diversity among students, employees, and our community. Again, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts with the board. We are now going to move into our action items. The first on our list is our approval of minutes for our November 14th and 28th meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Nope. We will move to a vote. All those in favor in approving the minutes, Director Decker?
I approve.
Director Sproul?
I approve.
Director Barros?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
And I also vote to approve, so the motion passes. We have items on our consent agenda. There's a slate of items set for approval under our instructional and administrative support. And we also have items under our fiscal support services. These items are discussed during our committee of the whole meeting. If you'd like to go back and check that meeting out online. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? None. Seeing that there's no discussion, we are going to put it to a vote. Director Smith?
Approve.
Director Barros? Director Sproul?
Approve.
And Director Decker?
I approve.
And I also vote to approve so the motion passes. And then we have our regular business.
Yeah, we have one policy tonight for your consideration. This is a second reading, so there's an action potentially at the conclusion of your discussion. And I asked if Taylor Richmond can give an overview of the policy 1605.
Thank you, Superintendent Snell. This policy 1605 is a new policy that establishes the board's operating commitments and operating protocols in 7 key areas of the board's functions. The policy also serves as a code of conduct for the board and promotes collaborative practices among the board and models effective leadership for the district. Under the new policy, the board would commit to reviewing and affirming the operating commitments and protocols annually. Happy to entertain any questions.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt our new policy 1605?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, comments, or questions?
I just appreciate the collaboration that went into drafting this policy from all of us. I'm excited to have this policy in writing because I know a lot of our operating procedures have kind of been just kind of verbal agreements that this is kind of our practice. And I think, you know, for us as a team, kind of having these in writing is beneficial, but also for our community. I think about our communication processes that I think having it in writing has been and will be helpful. I'll use the example of our recent communications around, you know, the VSAA change. I know a lot of community members at times, you know, reach out to us as a board and maybe get one response. But part of our process is getting a response from the board chair representing all of us. And so having that in writing to be able to share with our community, I think is just a helpful process so that people kind of understand how we operate and being able to reference that. Having that documented, I think is going to be a helpful process. So I'm excited to get this approved, hopefully.
I just want to echo what I said last month, which was a thank you to Director Smith and Director Barrows for taking the lead on this from the board perspective, and then Taylor Richmond from our district staff. I agree with Director Barrows in the sense that this is very important, that we've updated this policy to really reflect our board norms and have it documented. We are 5 representatives elected by our community, but we do have to have a shared voice. And so our community, how we engage with our community, we really rely heavily on our board chair. So having that outlined in our processes, I think helps all of us work better together. So I'm glad to have this, and I'm glad for the opportunity to relook at this every year during our board retreat, just to make sure that we are constantly evaluating and improving as necessary.
All right, let's put it to a vote. Director Smith?
Approve.
Director Barrows?
Approve.
Director Sproul?
Approve.
Director Decker?
Approve.
And I also approve, so the motion passes. We are now going into our Board of Directors report. Tonight, we are voting on our new board leadership for chair and vice chair that will start in January 2024. We will vote on each position separately. So first, thank you to our nominating committee, Director Smith and Director Decker, for your time on this. So we will start with the nomination for our vice chair. So our vice chair, Director Smith or Decker, will you share with us who you would like to nominate for our vice chair?
Sure, I'll, on behalf of the nominating committee, I'll go ahead and make the nomination. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge the work of Director Sproul in this position for this year. We really appreciate all of the efforts that you put in. The vice chair job is a little different because it's not the chair, but it is absolutely instrumental in our board leadership. So I appreciate your work this year as chair, vice chair, excuse me. On behalf of the nominating committee, I'd like to nominate Director Decker as our vice chair for next year.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? No? Okay. We'll put it to a vote. Director Smith,
Approve?
Director Barros,
Approve.
Director Decker,
Approve.
Director Sproul,
I also approve.
and I do not. So the motion still passes because we have 4 votes over 5. Congratulations, Director Decker. We will now hear a nomination for our chair. Director Smith or Director Decker, will you share with us who you nominate for our chair role?
Yes, and first I want to say thank you to Director Zavala for all her hours of work, and particularly stunning is her activism in the community while being in this role. You have put yourself out there and represented not only the VPS, but so many other parts of our community that have been represented in the past. And so it's been delightful to see you in action and grow in your role. So thank you very much for that. With that, I put forth the nomination on behalf of the nominating committee. I put forth the nomination for board chair for Director Sproul.
Do I have a motion?
That's a
Sorry, the second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? No. Seeing that there's no discussion, we'll now put it to a vote. Director Smith,
Approve?
Director Barros,
Approve.
Director Decker,
Approve.
Director Sproul,
Approve.
and I also approve, so the motion passes. Congratulations, Director Sproul.
Can I just, I want to echo what Director Decker said. I have really valued working with you this year, and I appreciate your leadership as we have navigated just lots of work passing the strategic plan, and I think engaging with our community, and you've done it with grace, and I just, it's been a pleasure to work with you.
I'm going to say the same thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all of your excellent leadership this year. Being chair is a lot of hard work, and I really appreciate all of the efforts that you've done on behalf of the board and the district. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everyone for this year as chair. I'm really grateful for the board for entrusting in me in this position. And also thank you to our district staff for your support and patience along the way. This role is not easy, but it's possible with the support of all of you. So I'm really looking forward to learning alongside our new board leadership. So now do we have any other board reports?
Just to note, our other committee assignments for the work we do outside of our regular board meetings is listed in the agenda.
Thank you, everyone, for this meeting. That concludes our regular board meeting at 7:13 p.m. We are now going to recess into our executive session. The subject is personnel to discuss the performance of a public employee. No action to follow. When we return, we will just be adjourning the meeting. We won't have any action items. We anticipate this will take about 30 minutes. Thank you. Our executive session is over at 7:51. No action was taken. Have a great night.